A deep space starship goes silent after a mysterious epidemic turns part of its crew into violent monsters. With the corridors drowned in alarms, blood, and shadows, the commander and the head scientist realize they may be the last living humans on board. Their only chance is to reach the auxiliary craft bay, but every deck between them and escape is filled with horrifying scenes and things that should not be moving. Watch closely, because what happened on this ship was not an accident. Chapter 1, The Last Two Voices. I keep my voice steady when I tell this, but I still taste metal in the back of my throat when I remember the smell of that ship. The Starship EREBUS was built to cross empty distances, to carry 1,000 people through years of quiet. It was not built to hold screams. Captain Hale, the commander, stood on the bridge with his pistol down at his side, like it weighed more than it should. The main lights were dead. Only backup panels glowed, painting his face in cold blue. I was the head of the science team, Dr. Mira Vance. I had spent my life studying what could kill us out here, and somehow I still wasn't ready for what did. The epidemic started like a bad flu. Fever, confusion, then aggression. Then the reports turned into static, and we started hearing impacts on doors, like bodies being thrown against steel. By the time the ship-wide quarantine order went out, it was already too late. Some crew changed fast. Others didn't change at all. They just died dead on the bridge. The last security feed flickered. A corridor camera showed something that used to be human crawling along the ceiling. Limbs bent the wrong way, mouth open too wide. It dropped on a running crewman. The feed cut out with a red smear across the lens. Hale didn't look away. Auxiliary Craft Bay, he said. That's our only exit. Engineering is between us and it, I replied. My hands shook around my data pad. And the labs. If the outbreak came from a sample, there may be records. Something that explains. A heavy bang echoed through the bridge door. Hale snapped his pistol up. Another bang. The hinges shivered. Dust fell like gray snow. We move now, he said. When the door finally gave, we were already gone, slipping into the emergency stairwell, stepping over a crushed body that had been dragged until the skin on its back was gone. The ship hummed around us like a sick animal, keeping itself alive while everything inside it rotted. In a security office off the stairwell, we found a maintenance chief slumped in a chair. His radio was smashed, and his hands were taped to the armrests with bloody strips torn from a uniform. Someone had tried to keep him from running down the wall. In shaky letters, one message was scratched into the metal. Don't let them hear you breathe. Chapter 2, The Science of Hunger. We took the route through the labs because I needed answers, and because the main corridors were louder. On EREBUS, noise traveled, so did things that hunted by it. The lab doors were half sealed, bent like someone had pried them open with bare hands. Inside, specimen tanks were shattered. Greenish fluid dried in wide stains. Robotic arms hung useless, sparking now and then like they were trying to remember their purpose. I found my team's terminal still on. The last research log was open, corrupted in places, but readable enough to make my stomach drop that I recovered micro. Non-terrestrial, it didn't just infect cells. It rewrote behavior, triggered pain responses into rage, increased muscle density, changed bone structure, made the body into a tool for spreading itself. Hale leaned in, jaw tight. You brought it on board. I swallowed. We followed protocol. Protocol didn't stop this. Behind the glass observation room, a monitor blinked with a saved message. I hit play that a young medic filled the screen, eyes wide, face wet with sweat. She was whispering, like she thought the ship itself might hear her. It's not just sick people, she said. It's like they're learning. They wait. They listen. If you cry, they come. If you run, they heard you. If you lock a door, they... Something slammed into the wall behind her. The camera jolted. The medic's mouth opened to scream. But she caught it, turned the scream into a choking gasp. The video ended in static, though we backed out into specimen storage, cold fog curling around our ankles. Lockers lined the walls, each one labeled with hazard warnings. Someone had scraped at the metal from the inside until their nails left bloody streaks. A locker door creaked. Hale's flashlight beam landed on it. The door opened wider, a face pushed out, stretched and split. Teeth showing in a grin that wasn't a grin at all. The creature unfolded from the locker like a spider, wearing the torn remains of a crew uniform. Its eyes locked on us with sharp focus. IT didn't roar. It listened, then it launched. Hale fired. The shots hit, but the creature barely slowed. It slammed into him, knocking him into a sink station. I grabbed a fire extinguisher and blasted foam into its face. The thing shrieked a high sound that stabbed my ears and promised company. Hale smashed it with the butt of his pistol again and again until it went still. We didn't wait to see if still meant dead. I end the wash station. Water dripped steadily from a broken pipe, mixing with blood and foam. Running into a drain that gurgled like it was choking, that I wrapped a torn sleeve around a cut on my arm. Hale shoved a heavy cart against the door. From the other side, something scratched. Slow, patient, like it knew we were tired. Chapter 3, The Garden of Teeth. To reach engineering transit, we had to cross the central crew decks. The cafeteria was first. IT looked like a storm had torn through it. Tables were flipped. Trays were scattered. The serving counter was smeared with a thick stripe of blood that led to a vent opening, wide enough for a person to crawl through. I kept thinking about the message. Don't let them hear you breathe. We moved quietly, stepping around bodies we couldn't afford to stop and mourn. A hand stuck out from under a table. Fingers curled as if it was still trying to hold on to someone. Hale gently moved my gaze away with a small motion of his shoulder. Not unkind. Just focused, we crawled into a maintenance tunnel to avoid the open hallways. Pipes pressed close overhead. Condensation dripped onto my face. The air tasted like rust and old heat. Halfway through, we saw scratch marks in the metal, fresh and wet. Something scraped ahead just once. Then, silenced, we reached hydroponics. The garden bay should have been bright, full of clean water and living green. Instead, the plants hung dead and slimy from their racks. Mist filled the air. Grow lights flickered and sparked, throwing broken shadows. Hale lifted a shotgun he'd taken from a fallen Marine. I held a flare, thumb ready. Eyes reflected back at us from between the racks. Not one pair. Many. They crouched low, bodies twisted, breathing in shallow pulls as if they were trying not to be heard either. One moved its head slightly, like a dog hearing a distant whistle. I lit the flare. Red light flooded the bay. The infected flinched, and for one heartbeat we had advantage. Then they came anyway. They didn't charge in a straight line. They spread out. Two rushed Hale, forcing him to fire. Another tried to circle behind me. Crawling under a plant shelf like it had practiced the move, I swung the flare like a club, burning its face. The smell was awful, like hair and meat. It shrieked, and the sound triggered others. Suddenly, the bay was full of noise and motion. Hale grabbed a heavy wrench from a tool cart and smashed a creature's knee sideways. It fell, but another leaped onto his back, clawing at his neck. I dropped the flare, grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall, and blasted foam into the thing's mouth. It gagged, coughing like it remembered being human. Hale threw it off and finished it with a close shot that we ran to the engineering transit door. The keypad was smeared in blood. Y hands trembled as I typed the override code. I had to try twice because my fingers wouldn't obey. Behind us, shadows gathered in the red light, and I heard the soft, almost polite sound of something sniffing the air. The lock clicked. Hale shoved the door open and pulled me through. The door slammed shut just as something hit it from the other side hard enough to ring the metal like a bell. Chapter 4, The Lever Under Glass. Engineering smelled like hot metal and burned insulation. Yellow hazard lights flashed over reactor panels. Steam vented from pipes with sudden bursts that sounded like angry breathing. On the floor, bodies lay near toolboxes, as if they'd tried to fix the ship while the ship tried to eat them. That we crossed a catwalk above a turbine chamber. Far below, blades spun in darkness. A a constant roar that swallowed smaller sounds. "That bay is close," Hale said, pointing at a transit map on the wall. His face was pale under the hazard lights. We pushed through. A loudspeaker crackled. "Containment failure. Containment failure." Then we saw it that a brute, infected, bigger than the others, stood in the corridor ahead. Its muscles bulged like they had been inflated. Pieces of armor plating looked fused to its skin, as if it had grown around them. It turned its head toward us slowly, like it was deciding whether we were worth the effort. Hale pulled an improvised explosive from his belt. "We don't trade shots with that." He set the charge on the floor, backing away. I held the wire and a small detonator, my fingers numb. The brute started forward. Each step made the floor vibrate. "Now," Hale said that I triggered it. The blast slammed into us with heat and pressure. Smoke rolled thick. The corridor filled with sparks and small fires. The brute collapsed, broken and twitching, still trying to move like its body hadn't gotten the message. Hale grabbed my arm. "Come on." We ran, coughing, past scorched panels and dangling cables. The self-destruct control alcove. We stopped at a lever sat behind red glass. Above it, a countdown panel waited dark and patient. The glass was marked with bloody fingerprints from someone who had hesitated right here, just like us. "If we leave it," I said, "the infection could drift. Someone could salvage this ship." Hale stared at the lever. His voice dropped. "And bring it home." I pulled up the ship diagram. The blast radius would be wide but clean. Total destruction. Hale lifted the red cover. It squealed like an animal. He looked at me once, as if asking permission he didn't need. Then he pulled the lever that a calm voice filled the corridor. "Auto-destruction sequence initiated. T-minus 10 minutes. We didn't speak. We just ran, but we rode a descending platform down a long lift shaft toward the deck labeled Auxiliary, Craft Bay. Sparks rained. Cables swayed. Along the shaft walls, shapes began to climb, fast and silent, hands and feet finding grips that shouldn't exist. Hale raised his shotgun. I gripped a metal bar, ready to swing. The platform shuddered as something landed on its edge. Chapter 5, The Last Lifeboat. The platform hit the bottom with a hard jolt. We spilled into the auxiliary craft hangar, and the space opened wide around us. Blue bay lights glowed through drifting fog. Warning sirens reflected on the polished floor like red water. And there it was. One small shuttle, fueled and waiting, ramped down like an invitation. But the hangar wasn't empty. Dead crew lay near the entrance in torn suits, as if they'd made it here and still failed. A long blood trail led under the shuttle. We sprinted anyway. The shape dragged itself out from beneath the craft. It wore a torn flight suit. Its jaw hung loose, skin split at the cheeks. Its eyes were too alert, too aware. Hale raised the shotgun. "Get the hatch." I hit the controls on the ramp column. The shuttle door lights blinked as it cycled. The infected launched itself at Hale, fast despite its wounds. He fired once. The blast threw it back, but it kept moving, pulling itself forward with broken arms that I heard the hatch mechanism unlock. Hale fired again, closer. The creature finally stopped, collapsing in a heap that twitched once, then went quiet. From the hangar entrance, more infected poured in, drawn by the gunshots and the sirens and the promise of living flesh. Hale shoved me up the ramp. "Go." I strapped into the pilot seat with shaking hands and started the engines. The cockpit lit up, screens blooming with data, the hum rising into a roar. Hale slammed the hatch closed and locked it. The shuttle shook as bodies hit the hull. One face pressed against the small window, mouth working, teeth clicking like it was trying to speak. "Launch!" Hale barked that I didn't hesitate. The shuttle lifted, engine screaming, and shot toward the opening bay door. The fog tore away behind us. The hangar shrank. The infected became a writhing mass under blue light as we cleared the frame and burst into open space. Behind us, the Starship EREBUS drifted like a wounded giant, its lights flickering, its shape scarred. The countdown reached zero for a fraction of a second. The ship was perfectly still. Then it erupted. A bright explosion bloomed outward in stages, fire and debris expanding against the dark starfield. The blast glow washed over our cockpit window, painting Hale's face in orange and white. Neither of us spoke. We just watched the only home we had left become a burning cloud in the distance, and we flew on into the dark, carrying the silence with us. If you enjoyed this scary space survival story, subscribe to the channel for more horror stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new video, and hit the like button to support the channel. Comment your favorite moment or what you think caused the outbreak, and share this video with anyone who loves sci-fi horror and monster outbreak stories.